talk on well-being in chronically homeless women, Tucson's risks and opportunities. Now, my name is George Hammond. I'm the director of the Economic and Business Research Center in the Eller College of Management at the University of Arizona. And I'm going to kick things off with a few comments about the MAP dashboard. So to begin, let's talk about the meeting details. First of all, the MAP talks are all recorded. So this one will be available up on the website probably late this week or early next week. So stay tuned for that. Also keep in mind that the presentation is going to be in conference mode, and that means that the audience will be muted. The presenters and I will go through our material and then we'll open up for questions at the end. However, you can email me anytime at ghammond@eller.arizona.edu with questions for our presenters today. And also, as you'll see at the end of their presentation, they have their contact information and you can contact them directly if you wish. So a word about the MAP dashboard. The first thing we want to do is thank our sponsors. Our sustaining sponsors are Tucson Electric Power, the Thomas R. Brown Foundation, and the Freeport-McMoran Foundation. And we also want to thank our partners, the Community Foundation for Southern Arizona, the Pima Association of Governments, the Southern Arizona Leadership Council, our newest partner, Sun Corridor, Inc., and of course the University of Arizona. Without their support, this project would not be possible. I also want to let you know that the dashboard has received national recognition for the third time since its launch in late 2014. This latest recognition comes from the Community Indicators Consortium for the impact that the MAP dashboard has had on the local community. So we're really proud about that, and we hope you are happy with what you find on the MAP dashboard as well. You can also find out about what's on the MAP dashboard through the Arizona Daily Star, and we have had for several years now, a feature on the front page of the business section of the Arizona Daily Star. And you can see the example, one of those examples here. But we also have a new feature which appears in the health section of the Arizona Daily Star once per month. So check that out. We will use some of the content from our health and social well-being indicators. And again, that'll appear in the health section of the Arizona Daily Star. So we very much thank the Star for its support of the MAP dashboard, and we hope you're finding that interesting and useful. So as you know, if you visited the MAP dashboard before, there is a huge amount of content on the site. A lot of that's available through what we call our core indicators, and those are 36 indicators that are organized into 6 categories. But we also do a set of feature articles, and we have a new feature article about every 2 weeks. And I've just snipped out some examples here of some of the latest feature articles that we've done. Now, the feature articles focus on content or issues that, for whatever reason, don't fit into the core data set. And one of the best examples of the feature articles that we do are the MAP dashboard white papers, which are done by University of Arizona faculty. And as part of the dashboard, we make available white paper grants. And actually, our presenters here this afternoon received one of those grants and have written a really interesting white paper that we think you'll really enjoy hearing about. So keep in mind those feature articles are designed to reflect content that doesn't fit into the core data set, but which is interesting and relevant to the community. And we're always looking for topics that you would like to read more about or hear more about. So please keep in mind that we are always looking for you to engage with us. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can subscribe for updates, and you'll find the box to do that on the homepage of the dashboard. So subscribe for updates. That's a monthly newsletter that's really interesting, readable, kind of gives you an update on the latest information and content that's coming out on the dashboard. And you can also at any time ask a researcher. And if you have questions about feature articles or data in the core data set, feel free to reach out to us and we will answer that question for you. Generally it takes about 24 to 48 hours for one of the researchers here in the center to respond to your questions. So be sure to engage with us both about questions you may have about the articles or the data on the dashboard, and also about issues that you think the dashboard should be addressing. We're really looking to engage with you and hear what you want to hear more of. And the person who will generally answer those questions and comments is our excellent map dashboard coordinator, and she is Jennifer Pullen. So she's a real tornado of activity. She does a great job coordinating all of the activities on the dashboard. So touch base with Jennifer and she can help you out. Okay. So I'm going to now pop up the presentation from our guest speakers, Rosie Andrade and Francisca Frank, and they're going to be presenting on their research, Health and Social Well-Being in Chronically Homeless Women, Tucson and Southern Arizona's Current Risks and Future Opportunities. Okay, and with that, I will turn it over to our guest speakers.
Thank you very much. And before we begin, we want to make sure we thank Map Dashboard for this opportunity and to receive funding to conduct a white paper and a community needs assessment and everything that has come out of it, including this webinar.
Okay, hi everyone. So I'd like to start with a short presentation overview. We will start with some background information about our collaboration and some methodological information. Then we are going to continue with how is homelessness currently counted. And after a short overview of the key findings in existing literature, we will present our own key findings from the community needs assessment. And then we will also, we would also like to talk about future opportunities that address the needs of homeless women. And after our presentation, you will have the chance to ask questions.
I'd like to share some background information on what collaboration has brought this project forward. Sister Jose Women's Center is a partner with the Southwest Institute for Research on Women, and as I mentioned, Map Dashboard funding made the work possible. Sister Jose is a nonprofit women's shelter funded begun in 2009. The shelter currently houses about 35 women in the evening and meets about 100 women daily who drop in to use the amenities at the shelter, which includes a shower, laundry facilities, clothing, a cafeteria-style dining room, and opportunity to take a nap if necessary, or watch television or read newspapers, magazines. And CIRO is a research institution in the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, soon celebrating our 50th anniversary, I believe. And CIRO is a regional institute that serves whose mission is to serve, improve the lives of women and communities in the region. Now, as a research institute, we tend to use participatory action research to formulate our research and generally a service that comes with the research. And that is no different with our work with Sister Jose, where we use community-based participatory research as a process to move the collaboration forward and develop a community needs assessment and facilitate that as well, and later with a data collection analysis. So there's some fine key points about the community-based participatory research model, which we come to throughout the process. And those are, first, that the CBPR builds on the strengths and existing resources within the community. So we come together as equal partners, bringing different resources and skills. Second is that it involves collaborative partnerships throughout the research process. And we see the research, the data collection, the development of services as a process. And CBPR allows us to interject into the process to improve or make changes. The third is that the aim is to benefit all involved partners, including for us, the women who are receive services or come to Sister Jose Women's Center. And fourth is to recognize that the research is a process, again, of reciprocal learning and two-sided empowerment. So that women who participated in the community needs assessment were a part of making that determination. Their voice was essential to us understanding and interpreting our findings. And lastly, that it establishes a cyclical and iterative process of developing and maintaining trust and true partnership. And that's something that complements both CIRO's participatory action research orientation and Sister Jose Women's Center social justice approach of respect, dignity, and compassion for their women. And lastly, what we have today, what this webinar is based on, is the white paper that was the outcome of that collaboration. So a little bit of information with regard to the enumeration of homeless women. What do we know about homeless women? Well, largely that is based on what is termed the Annual Homeless Assessment Report to Congress, or the AHAR. And the significance of the AHAR is that it is a go-to reference tool for policymakers, journalists, state and community leaders. This is what determinations about funding and needs are based on. So it is a very important report or tool that affects all communities and how accurate the data is or not. The AHAR itself reflects yearly data collection sources. The first is the point in time, which is a systematic count of homeless populations that's collected nationally in a given day. Trained volunteers go out in the community and collect census type data. And second source of data is reported by shelters and housing programs that receive HUD, Housing and Urban Development federal funding through the state. Some of the limitations of the enumeration as it was currently, well, framed in the 2016 AHAR report, which is what we based our white paper on, were the following: that the categories are predetermined, so there's certainly no way of informing and changing. These are set, and those subpopulations are what are organize the data or how the data is looked at, and they include individuals, be they adults or youth, families, and veterans, which were the target population. In 2016, there was no breakdown of men or women, nor differences or different needs. Secondly, the housing status is determined as either sheltered or unsheltered. And the type of shelters are domestic violence shelters, family shelters, transitional shelters, for example. So some statistics on women. We cite a report that we think was very comprehensive, and it included 23 city report, which largely attributes domestic violence as the primary cause of homelessness, in addition to what is cumulative violence, both interpersonal and community. Often, again, these are affecting women, are eating-related disorders, the greater incidence of STIs and hepatitis, often poor self-related health status reported by women, and greater involvement in crime, most often domestic violence, and more arrests that seem to accumulate tied to that violence.
One part of the MAP dashboard white paper was also literature review, and in our literature review, we found that simply moving women into housing without a transitional period of support and recovery results in recurring homelessness. Also, majority of homeless women are domestic violence survivors. For many women, domestic violence is a precursor to homelessness. Very often, alcohol and drug abuse is not only a cause, but also an effect of homelessness. And exposure to multiple stressors takes a toll on homeless women's physical and mental health, which can create a cycle of failures, making it harder to work or making it difficult to seek employment and find stable housing. So this table shows findings of the community needs assessment. The findings are based upon 50 interviews of chronically homeless women conducted during winter and spring 2016-17. And it shows the answers to the question how troubled women felt in the past 30 days. And we will now discuss the findings in the following slides. So 40% of women were not at all or slightly troubled by problems with family members. However, another 38% were considerably to extremely troubled by problems with family members, such as being kicked out of the home or assaulted by family members, including their adult children. Women who reported problems finding a safe place to sleep described sleeping, for example, in a van in a Walmart parking lot, or staying with someone at night who wants sex in exchange for shelter. While women staying at Sister Jose Women's Center often reported that they feel safe for the first time, often due to the low barrier entrance into Sister Jose, while other shelters will screen out because women do not have current tuberculosis card or identification card, or lack of sobriety, or because they bring their pets with them. 96%, 69%. Noted they were not at all or slightly troubled by legal problems, such as warrants for failure to appear at court or mounting fines. A few women had attorneys working on disability claims and previously denied Social Security applications, and a history of criminal arrests reveals that 98% of the total sample of women have prior arrests on a criminal offense, mostly warrants for failure to appear at court or on minor driving-related offenses.
Jaywalking.
Like jaywalking or trespassing. A smaller number of women had more serious criminal arrests for domestic violence or check fraud, etc. So 53% noted that they were considerably to extremely troubled by physical and medical problems, including autoimmune diseases like lupus or arthritis or diabetes, respiratory diseases, high blood pressure, or physical and mental disabilities. 80% noted that they were not at all or slightly troubled by alcohol or drug problems. Reasons given for drug or alcohol use were to deal with emotions or relapse due to their stress in their lives. Then 62% noted that they were considerably to extremely troubled by problems finding work, greatly impacted by being homeless and not having a permanent address and shelter to keep their personal items safe, or also by the problem of lapses in the work history. 33% of women were slightly to extremely troubled by problems with people wanting something from them, like, for example, money, sex in exchange for shelter or protection. %82 of women reported domestic violence at the hands of family by blood, marriage, or relationship, with the arrests taking place less than half of the time. So women were as likely to be arrested as family members. Fewer women reported smaller percentages of violence in the community. However, 25% of women described violence from strangers. Males, female friends, or acquaintances, including, for example, people driving by and throwing things at them. Or women also described incidences of aggression, including like nearly being hit by a car or having a shopping cart hit by a cart because they're driving too closely to the curb.
So out of the community needs assessment, the idea was to elaborate what we weren't able to find or speak to in the AHAR report, so that we could develop opportunities that took us beyond the current state of shelter services or developing pathways out of homelessness in conjunction with women. So our data findings suggest the need for additional programming or programming itself that is responsive to women's histories of trauma and needs. And with that, the issue of gender differences is salient. For women, we see that women live very different existence when they're homeless than do men. Francisca pointed to the aggression in the community, of ways that the women feel most vulnerable, generally on holidays or weekends when people tend to be out. And point to note is that most often women, homeless women, try to become invisible, so they're not out that late for those types of aggressions, and also other intimate partner violence or violence from strangers. Other policy implications of this work is that there needs to be more elaboration when we think of gender differences, for example, of how homelessness is screened. Current measures for to determine need for housing look at past year or past 90-day health, hospitalization, substance use, for example. However, they fail to capture what is the significance of lifetimes of trauma, which is often the case that we found with our community needs assessment, so that women suffer multiple forms of trauma, many of them as children, and these continue to grow in quantity and impact on the women's lives. Another thing that we found is that there's a need to create different pathways to housing that include supportive services. We found that some of the women had had housing before, previously were housed through some of the housing mechanisms currently in place. However, they failed to stay in housing for a number of reasons tied to a lack of supportive services. And those include from behavioral health, health services, inclusion in more social activities, pro-social activities, and also the type of housing that women are placed in. There are types of housing that women find to be, they find themselves to be very vulnerable and unable to stay indoors because of the trauma that they've experienced. In addition, we found that there's a need for longitudinal evaluation of effectiveness of various housing types. That's something that we don't really know, but certainly we need in order to make better estimations of what housing can look like, successful housing. So in addition to these opportunities to grow and develop, what is the next iteration of service or screening for homeless populations is that the MAP dashboard gave us the opportunity to conduct a community needs assessment, and with that, take women's suggestions and keeping their experiences in mind to develop what we termed, and we as Sister Jose Women's Center and CIRO collaboratively develop a CREATE program, which stands for Confidence, Readiness, Empowerment, Action, Transformation, and Empowerment for Women. And within that program, which we piloted in beginning summer of 2017, is a six-month program of 5 levels that increasingly engage the women, beginning with getting their documentation in order, an ID card, birth certificates, marriage license, etc., in order to be able to move forward in accessing services. Identifying a primary care doctor was often an obstacle for women who had Medicaid. However, did not have a provider and would use the hospitalization as their form of medical care. So the idea is that CREATE allows the women to live at Sister Jose. They are secured a place in the overnight shelter where they can live within a nurturing community. Women can find stability and safety as foundations to begin the process of moving forward. And by moving forward, meaning that they are developing goals and plans, that they work with a coach and other staff and volunteers who provide the curriculum for CREATE. And that curriculum includes creativity that's used to empower and promote change, whether it's through art, Zentangle, poetry, and writing. In addition, the women in the process are building life skills and pre-employment skills. So when you've been away from social engagement with other individuals in different activities, there needs to be a building back up of how, beginning with how do you stay still when your focus has been on meeting basic needs. And so these little skills, soft skills that the program helps re-engage the women and develop further. Also, the opportunity to engage in the community through internships and trainings, that is part of the CREATE program. So it gives the women an opportunity to be engaged in a setting, whether it's most currently the YWCA's culinary program, and participate in training and receive a certificate, or volunteer in a community library or an elder program, and have that information to put into the resumes that the women are already building in the computer class. And lastly, what CREATE does is helps build a community that is supportive. Regardless of where the women go, having a community that supports them, that they feel that they belong to, is essential for them to be secure in housing. And that brings us to any questions or comments.
Okay, any questions for our presenters this afternoon? Well, as you ponder that, let me remind you that the detailed research that Dr. Andrade and Francisca have done is available on the MAP dashboard in a white paper. So you can find that by going to the library and then searching on MAP dashboard white papers. So keep that in mind. Are there any questions? Okay, we're not hearing any questions. So with that, we'll conclude the webinar, and we will invite you to let your friends know about both the MAP dashboard, the white paper, and this webinar. So thank you very much for attending. We really appreciate it, and we will be back with our next webinar in December, and we will be in touch both through the website and the newsletter for the exact date on that. Thank you very much, and have a great day.